a part of instinct and intelligence from Kardec, from Gênesis, in chapter 3, Gênesis, chapter 3, item 9 until 16. The last live about it, I stopped in item 9. The evil, if evil is the result of the imperfections of human beings, and human beings were created by God, then one might say that if God didn't create evil, God created the cause of evil, at least. If God had made humans perfect, evil would not exist. Is a wrong line of logic, because it's better than God create robots. How China and Japan are developing. If humans had been created perfect, fate would have led them toward the good. However, by virtue of their free will, fate led them neither toward the good nor toward evil. God willed them to be subject to the law of progress, and for such progress to be the fruit of their own effort, in order for them to have the merit for it. We are not puppets, okay? We are not how toys created perfection, toys from God. We are not this. I left something in fire, would be fired. Now are good. In the same way, they bear the responsibility for the evil committed as a result of their free will. The issue, therefore, lies in knowing the source in human beings for their propensity toward evil. If one were to study all the passions and even all the vices, one could see that they have their origin in the self-preservation instinct. The instinct can be found in all its might in the animals and in those primitive humans closest to the animal existence, where instinct dominates exclusively. Among them, there is not yet the moral sense as a counterweight. They have not yet awakened to the intellectual life. Conversely, instinct weakens as intelligence develops, because intelligence dominates matter. Have a bit note about, about evil, propensity toward evil. The error is in believing that the soul left the Creator's hands already perfect, When God, to the contrary, wanted perfection to be the result of the gradual purification of the spirit and due to its own labor, God wanted the soul, by virtue of its free will, to be able to choose between good and evil, and for it to arrive at its final goal through a disciplined life, and by resisting evil. If God had created the soul as divinely perfect, and that upon leaving the divine hands it could already partake of God's eternal beatitude, it would not have been created in God's image, but exactly like God perceived. This is in a book, La Raison du Spiritisme, chapter 6, from Kardec. He made other book named La Raison, I don't know the pronouncing in French. La Raison du Spiritisme, chapter 6. The destiny of human. Conversely, instinct weakens as intelligence develops, because intelligence dominates matter. The destiny of human beings lies in the spirit life, but in the first phase of their corporeal existence, there are only material needs to satisfy. In their corporeal existence, in first phases, from caverns, they only have objective in material needs to satisfy. And toward the end, the exercising of the passion is a need for the preservation both of the species and individuals, materially speaking. But once they leave that period, there are other needs. First, semi-moral and semi-material needs. Next, exclusively moral. It's then that the spirit dominates matter. If it shakes off its yoke, it advances along the providential path and grows closer to its final destiny. If to the contrary, it allows itself to be dominated by matter, it holds itself back by identifying, it holds itself back by identifying with the animal. In such a situation, what was once something good because it was a need of its condition, becomes evil, not only because it's no longer a need, but because it becomes detrimental to the spiritualization of the being. That which is considered an attribute in a child becomes a flaw in an adult. So evil in relative and responsibility for it's proportional to the spirit's degree of advancement. Therefore, all the passions have their providential usefulness. Otherwise, God would have made something useless and noxious. It's their abuse that constitutes evil, and human abuse things by virtue of their free will. Later enlightened, through their own interests, they freely choose between good and evil. Other matter is instinct and intelligence. What is the difference between instinct and intelligence? Where does one end and the other begin? Is instinct a rudimentary intelligence, or it's a distinct faculty, an exclusive attribute of matter? Instinct is the hidden force that drives organic being in a spontaneous and unintentional acts, having their self-preservation in mind. In instinctive acts, there is neither reflection, calculation, nor premeditation. It's thus that the plant seeks the air, turns toward the light, and directs its roots toward the water and the nutritious soil. That the flower alternately opens and closes according to necessity. That vines wrap around their support or grasp it with their tendrils. It's by instinct that animals are warned about what is beneficial or harmful to them, that they seek out, according to the season, propitious climates that, without having been taught, they construct with various degrees of artfulness and according to species, soft bedding and shelter for their offspring, and traps to catch prey with which they are nourished, that they skillfully handle offensive and defensive weapons with which they are provided, that the sexes come together, that the mother gives birth to her offspring, and that they seek the maternal breast. Among human beings, instinct dominates exclusively at the beginning of life. It's by instinct that children make their first movements, grip their nourishment, cry to express their needs, imitate the sound of the voice, and try to speak and walk. In our adults, certain acts are also instinctive. Such are the spontaneous movements to avoid a hazard, to pull away from danger, and not maintain one's balance. Such are. Furthermore, the blind of the eyelids to moderate a bright light, the automatic opening of the mouth to breathe. Intelligence is revealed through intentional, thought out, premeditated and calculated acts according to the burn of the circumstances. It's undeniably an exclusive attribute of the soul. Intelligence is a attribute of the soul, not the body. Every automatic action is instinctive. The action that displays reflection, complexity, and deliberation is intelligence. Intelligence free. Instinct is not free. Instinct is a safe guide that never errs. Intelligence, by the simple fact of being free, is at times subject to error. Even though the instinctive action lacks the character of the intelligent action, it nonetheless reveals an intelligence because there is essentially providence. If one believes that instinct has its source in matter, one must believe that matter is intelligence, even more intelligent and provident than the soul, since instinct does not err, whereas intelligence does. Its instinct, if instinct is considered to be a rudimentary intelligence, how can it be that in certain cases it's superior to rational intelligence? What gives it the ability to do things that the intelligence cannot? The instinct is the attribute of an special spiritual principle. What becomes of this principle? If instinct were to disappear, would this principle be destroyed? If animals are endowed only with instinct, their future is meaningless. Their sufferings have no compensation. This would not be accord with each the justice or the goodness of God. According to another theory, instinct and intelligence would have one and the same principle, having arrived at a certain degree of development. This principle, which as a first would have only the qualities of instinct, would undergo a transformation that would give it free intelligence. If that were the case, an intelligent individuals who lose their reason and are no longer guided except by instinct, intelligence would return to its primitive state, and when they recover their reason, their instinct would become intelligence again, and so on at each turn, which is not acceptable. Moreover, instinct are intelligence and intelligence are frequently displayed simultaneously in the same action. In walking, for example, she moved off the legs is instinctive. The person automatically places one foot in front of the another without thinking about it. But when the person wants to accelerate or moderate his or her step, to lift a fall or turn aside to avoid an obstacle, there is a calculation and complexity. He or she acts with a deliberated purpose. The involuntary impulse of the movement are the instinctive action. The calculated direction of the movement is the intelligent action. The carnivorous animals is driven by instinct to eat flesh, but the precautions it takes and modifies according to the circumstance in order to catch its prey, as well as its foresight of the possibilities are acts of intelligence. Furthermore, another theory that aligns with self perfectly, which the idea of the unity of principle results from the essentially prevalent nature of instinct, and agree with what Spiritism teaches regarding the relations between the spirit world and the corporeal. It's now known that some discarnate spirits have a mission to watch over incarnates, from whom they are protectors and guides, that they envelope them if their fluidic emanations, and that person often act unconsciously under the action of these emanations. Moreover, it's known that instinct, which itself produces unconscious actions, predominates in children, and generally in persons whose intellect is deficient. Thus, according to this theory, instinct would not be unterrible of either of soul of mother or mother. It wouldn't belong to the living person per se, but would be an effect of the direct action of the invisible guardians. Have invisible guardians to animals and to persons, and maybe with other realms, other kingdoms, I don't know. Thus, according to this theory, instinct would not be an attribute of either of the soul or matter. It would not belong to the living person per se, but would be an effect of the direct action of the invisible guardians, who would compensate for the imperfection of the intelligence by personally causing the unconscious acts necessary for the person's self-preservation. It would be like the leading strings with which one supports infants who don't yet know how to walk. However, in the same way that we gradually eliminate the use of leading strings, as children began to walk, gradually eliminate the use of leading strings of children began to walk with their own protector spirits, leave their wards to themselves, to the extent that they can guide themselves by their own intelligence. Thus, far from being the product of a rudimentary and incomplete intelligence, instinct would be the result of an outside intelligence in its fullness, a protective intelligence makeup for insufficient whether of a younger intelligence, which it would lead to doing unconsciously for its own good what it was incapable of doing for itself, or whether of a nature intelligence, but momentarily hampered in the use of the faculties, as occurs in humans during infancy and in cases of mental impairment. And the final here, it's stated proverbially that there is a good for children, fools and drunkards. This saving is truer than one might think. The God is one other than the protector spirit who watches over the person incapable of being protected by his or her own reason. And the last item today I will read. Oh, so great. Wow. In this order of ideas, one could go farther still. This theory, as rational as it may be, doesn't resolve all the difficulties of the issue. If one were to observe the effects of instinct, one would notice about and foremost uniformity of view and harmony, surety of outcome that no longer exists when instinct is replaced by free intelligence. Furthermore, we recognize a profound wisdom in the allocation, so perfect and constant, of the instinctive faculties applied to the needs of each species. Such uniformity could not exist without unity of thought and unity of thought and unity of thought is incompatible with the diversity of individual aptitudes. Only this unity could produce such as perfectly harmonious whole, which has continued since the beginning of time and in all climes with a regularity and a mathematical precision that has never failed. The uniformity that results from the instinctive faculties is a characteristic fact that unavoidably implies a unity of cause. If this cause were inherent to each individuality, there would be many varieties of instincts as individuals, from the plant to the human being, from the plant, from the plant, from the wood bee, if this cause were inherent to each individuality, there would be as many varieties of instincts as there as individuals, from the plant to the human being. A general, uniform, and constant effect must have a general, uniform, and constant cause, an effect that attests to wisdom and providence must have a wise and provident cause. Therefore, a wise and provident cause, being necessarily intelligent, could not be exclusively material. No finding in incarnate or discarnate individuals the necessary qualities of producing such as result. One must look higher to the Creator. Is one recalls that explaining that was given concerning the manner in which one can recognize potential action. And if one imagines all being penetrated by a supremely intelligence, divine fluid, one will understand the provident wisdom and the uniformity that preside over all instinctive movements for the wellness of each individual, for the wellness of each individual. Such solicitude is more active the less resources individuals have in themselves and in their own intelligence. That is why this solicitude shows itself great and more absolute among animals and primitive beings than among humans. According to this theory, instinct is understood to be always a sure guide. The maternal instinct, the noblest of all, which materialism lowers to the level of the attractive forces of mother, is enhanced and ennobled. Due to its consequences, it should not be left to the capricious eventualities of the intelligence and free will. Being of the mother, good personality swatches over all neighbor creatures. And now I start the eating 16, but I don't will read to you today. I will read next week, okay? And I hope you are so fine. And the way I read, I hope you understand and have a good Sunday tomorrow, a good Saturday night, and God bless all of you. Thank you for your attention, and see you in the next. Tomorrow I will try post a chapter from The Castle in the Past. This text I read, now I will try make the other text in English, was another language in English, okay? The next live with the same text, in Portuguese, sorry. And I will try to talk now in Portuguese from alcohol, but not Kardec that said about this. It's another book from Brazil, from Ramatiz, named Physiology of the Soul. So interesting, and here I post only propositions to we understand how function more deep the problem of addiction. Okay? Have a brilliant day, a beautiful day for all you, and thank you to your presence.